Attention to all founders, hustlers, and hardworking entrepreneurs. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is out now, and it's a goldmine of valuable strategies, data-driven insights, and expert tips for elevating your business. Have you ever wondered how successful business owners are staying ahead of the crowd in today's super competitive market? Well, we talked to over 500 small business owners to uncover how they're doing it and did a ton of research so you don't have to. We know you're busy building your business, so we got you covered. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is something you don't want to miss. This right here is the future of entrepreneurship. So stop what you're doing right now and check the link in the show notes to get that report right now. All right, good morning, everyone. It's Monday, October 14th. I'm John Weigell here at Cyan, Zhong, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. We've addressed robotic exoskeletons on the show before as a new technology that could help industrial workers and medical patients alike. But now it's looking like these muscle-assisting exoskeletons could be poised for a lot more. That's a few $1 billion more. So what are the details behind these suits and how can you cash in on this wave of robotics? We're answering that question today with Cyan Zhong, the managing editor of the weekly trends newsletter here at HubSpot, who suited up for this robotic exoskeleton trend. But before that, let's give you the hits and headlines today in business and tech. So kicking us off, after Tesla's Robotaxi event where Cybercab, Cybervan, and Optimus humanoid robots were revealed, stock for the company actually fell 8.8%. That translates to about $67 billion of market value erased from the company. Investors cite an event that was more focused on pageantry than hard details for this decline. Next, TikTok was sued by 14 U.S. attorneys general last week with a claim that the app harms children's mental health. NPR published excerpts from the lawsuit, including a section from TikTok themselves that reads, quote, "Compulsive usage of the app correlates with a slew of negative mental health effects." From there, let's go to the skies. Let's go to Boeing. The losses continue to mount for Boeing, and the company is now set to cut about 10% of its workforce. That's around 17,000 jobs. Those affected will be executives, managers, and production employees, all of them. To tech, if Google offers you a job, chances are you're probably going to take it. Google CEO Sundar Pichai, in an interview with Bloomberg, claimed that Google has an almost 90% accept rate for jobs it offers to potential employees. And finally, inflation is pretty crazy, everybody, but let's zoom out for a second. USDA data from 2022, uncovered by Fast Company, shows that Americans spend less on food as a proportion of total consumer expenditures than people in any other country, coming in much lower than countries like Japan, Sweden, Norway, France, and Italy. Remember how marketing used to be? Content was simpler to create, leads were easier to capture, and we weren't all spread so thin. Bottom line, marketing used to be fun. But with HubSpot's newly launched marketing and content hubs, you'll generate better content, more leads, and next-level results so marketing can be fun again. With tools like Content Remix to turn existing assets into all new pieces in just a click, lead scoring to shine a light on the leads most likely to purchase, and Analytics Suite to tackle out-of-the-box reports and KPIs with a goldmine of AI-powered insights, it's quick to get you results. It's easy to use, it connects all your teams and data, so put the fun back in your marketing funnel with HubSpot. Visit HubSpot.com to get started for free. Okay, as mentioned before, we're joined again by the managing editor of the weekly trends newsletter here at HubSpot, Cyan, who covered this robotic exoskeleton trend. So welcome back, Cyan. Happy to have you back. Excited to talk robotics today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me back, John.
Of course. So let's kick it off with the question I'm sure everyone wants to know more in depth. What is a robotic exoskeleton?
Yeah, I know that name sounds a little bit intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just a wearable device that when you put it on, it gives you extra strength, mobility, and a host of other physical capabilities. It's kind of like a little boost up for you.
Mhm.
And it's called exoskeleton. And that's kind of inspired by nature. There are some insects that have their skeletons literally on the outside of their body, which is called exoskeleton,
Right.
as opposed to endoskeleton, which is like us humans, which is inside. Although with Halloween coming up, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing a lot of walking exoskeletons,
Yeah.
the non-robotic kind.
Right.
on
These
the
robots will
streets.
blend in quite well with the regular exoskeletons already, I'm sure.
For sure.
So it's an exoskeleton, right? It equips on the outside of the body and it helps you do various things like lifting and picking things up and also potentially running and walking, even for some people. So I've heard that they are testing this in a lot of different places, in the Amazon warehouses, in that field of heavy lifting. So what are some projections for how this industry is supposed to look in the future market-wise?
Yeah, it's a pretty huge market. Right now, it's 2.4 billion in market size, but it's projected to reach almost 14 billion, which is pretty much 6 times growth in the next decade.
Okay, so that's relatively soon. A lot of stories are coming out about automation coming into distribution networks. There's a story today about robotics coming into grocery distribution. So they're kind of going everywhere, and the exoskeleton is not left out of that. Why do you think these exoskeletons in particular are gaining a lot of popularity recently?
So the technology has existed for a while, but like you mentioned, a lot of big companies starting to implement them at scale in their warehouses, especially these leading companies like Amazon. They are making this more into the spotlight, so we're noticing it. But at the same time, we have an aging society and people have growing healthcare concerns. And especially with physical therapy, rehab, a lot of other muscular issues can be helped by these robotic exoskeletons. It's becoming more and more mainstream on both sides, either the industrial side or the medical side. But at the same time, I feel like the advancement of robotics has reached a point where it's able to be used at scale. And, when you add into AI and all those other technologies, I think the ability for robotic exoskeletons to make a difference is much more right now. So yeah, those all together contribute to this gaining popularity.
Yeah, and I imagine it's not as expensive as it maybe once would have been to make these robotics, given that science and robotics has just increased so much in recent years. Now, what businesses are primarily aiming to use these exoskeletons? We talked a bit about shipping, but is there kind of any other businesses?
Yeah, I mean, really, any industry that requires heavy lifting by humans can probably benefit from this. The automotive industry, manufacturing, industrial companies, a lot of handling, fulfillment, logistics, or construction. Yeah, like I said, anywhere where I think the human strength can be amplified by these tools, they will probably use robotic exoskeletons in the future.
Are there any ways that, for example, like I, as an individual, could buy one of these? Not that I would want it. Maybe I would. I don't know.
Actually, it's not widespread yet, but there are some companies that are developing early models that combine robotic exoskeletons into kind of everyday wear, even sportswear. I know Skip, which is a company that's a spinoff from Alphabet. They partnered with Octorisk to develop the world's first powered clothing, which basically is like mountain pants with some kind of enhanced robotic exoskeleton elements on it. They named it Mogo, which is short for mountain goat. And I think it's inspired by the agility and strength of those animals because you've seen memes of mountain goats just like straight up standing on mountains and trees.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's inspired by those mountain goats. And then there's another company called DNSYS. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they developed these powered clothing for outdoor adventures. They're kind of zooming in on the adventure market where people want to go do outdoor stuff, extreme sports, anything like that.
Wow.
And their clothing will give them a little bit of a boost.
It's interesting that the first few places manufacturing this clothing for people are very much in that outdoorsy space. I'm very fascinated by that. I would have thought that this would have been very concentrated in the medical field. This is kind of surprising, but I like the idea of being able to augment my rock climbing with some really interesting pants, though.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to climb the mountain like a mountain goat?
Right. I want to be vertical at all times.
Exactly. And I was going to say, you're right about the medical applications. College labs and other research labs are constantly developing better ways to help patients regain their physical abilities or help them get better lives. And I think that's really cool. But it's also really interesting to see that the outdoor adventure people starting to get onto this trend.
Yeah, it makes me think that people outside of industry and medical areas will be purchasing these at some point, which could be fun to see on the streets in the near future. So with all that said, with this industry potentially going to go 6 times what it is right now in the next 9 years or so, what are some ways that you or anybody listening could tap into the robotic exoskeleton industry and innovate on it and make some money off it?
It may sound a little daunting because, you hear all these big companies developing these solutions. And if you don't have advanced robotics background or the ability to set up, a manufacturing facility for these things, it might be hard for you to get into it. So my advice would be to do the pick and shovels ideas. A big one could be data analytics, because if you think about it, robotic exoskeletons generate a lot of data, usage data, performance data, and we'll need to constantly improve them, how well they fit, how well the sensors detect people's movement. So there's an opportunity for you to build a data analytics platform to collect those feedback and help improve the performance of these exoskeletons. I would think that those big companies have their built-in data team, so they wouldn't need you, but maybe you could target newer developments or straight out of college labs and convince them to integrate with your software. I think that would be a really cool way to kind of get into this space.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Another idea I had, which is probably ways down the road, but if people start adopting these robotic suits more for consumer use, for daily use, then we'll see people might need it to fit better. They might need it to look better. And then you could start a customization studio that basically act as a tailor for these robotic suits.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, that's probably more futuristic in the next, few years.
Yeah.
We won't see that just yet.
That sounds really cool. Reminds me of if you ever played Cyberpunk, if you go to a guy and he soups you up with all this cool robotic stuff, it's kind of what that makes me think of.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be really cool. And if you don't want to do that physically, you could also develop a software that help people build their ideal robotic suits online as a Canva for these things.
Wow.
Yeah, even just as a game, I think it will be really cool. And the last idea I had was, this could actually be applied to pets, not just humans, because there are a lot of pets that are maybe senior, they're disabled, or they're obese. And to help improve their quality of life, maybe these robotic exoskeletons, tiny ones, could help them run a little faster, help them walk a little more comfortably. And I think that'll be a really cute use of it. I know some college labs are already doing it. And I watched this YouTube video of this girl who made a robotic exoskeleton leg for her 3-legged dog, which is just super cute.
Oh.
Yeah. The pet humanization trend is a trend that we talk a lot about in our newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
Just, people are treating their pets more like humans. So any idea that would be good for humans could potentially extend to our fur friends,
Yeah. Rob and I actually last week talked about this Business Insider story that came out about why you're seeing so many dogs in so many places because of the post-pandemic boom and people think they're their dogs as family right now. So this actually lines up with that quite perfectly in that maybe in a few years, you'll be able to keep your dog around for a little longer by kind of augmenting its muscles.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are buying robot pets these days. I don't know if you know about that, but yeah, robot dogs.
Oh, yeah, the robot dog.
And I'm before they totally take over real dogs and cats and pets, maybe we could find somewhere in between.
Yeah, right. This all reads as one big transition period to the real good stuff of society, which is robot dogs, robot workers, and no people anymore.
Exactly. We don't need to do any heavy lifting anymore. We're just all left to do creative work. That's the ideal way anyway.
Exactly. Ideal. Well, thank you so much, Cyan. It's been such a pleasure having you on, and we'll be seeing you next month, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was fun chatting with you. Thanks, John.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in the newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. Throw us a follow on Instagram and put on your Robo exosuit for me. Goodbye. Hey, what's up, everybody? I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately. It's called Hustle and Flowchart, hosted by Joe Fear, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. The Hustle and Flowchart podcast with Joe Fear is all about how to build a business so it gives you the freedom and fuel for your life. You can join Joe as he discusses systems, mindset tweaks, reframes, and strategies for entrepreneurs, and really anyone, to be honest, to enjoy the process of being in business and also having fun. This isn't just for the entrepreneur looking to make $1 billion business, but it's also for somebody who's looking to build systems that work for you so you can make more money than you need just by working part-time, essentially. I was actually just listening to an episode he had on Kareen Walsh behind the app Hey Kareen, and Kareen talked a lot about how to scale your business effectively, especially if you're just a startup, especially if you are just an app startup specifically. It's an awesome episode. I would recommend it to anyone. You can check them out and you can listen to the Hustle and Flowchart wherever you get your podcasts.